What is going on, guys? ESG here, back with a new FPL video. Game week 1 is now over with and all of the points have been finalised. So in today's video I'm going to be giving my initial reaction to game week 1, looking at the points that I did get, and then looking ahead to game week 2 to look at the team that I currently have lined up and to talk about 1 or 2 transfers that I am looking at making ahead of game week 2. As always, if you do enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. And with that being said, let's get into it. So game week 1, in my opinion, in FPL is always going to be the hardest, and that's mainly because we don't know what form teams are going to be in, and we don't really know who's going to be playing for each team. So if we look at what I got for game week 1, I got 83 points, and my rank is 185,158. So for game week 1 overall, I feel like that's really good. I know a lot of people went for Haaland and Haaland only got a goal and they didn't really captain him. And it's game week 2 that I'm worried about with that, but I will get into that a little bit later. But all in all, 83 points, I'm really happy with for game week 1. If I have a look at individual players and break down the points that I did get, so looking at Dean Henderson first, I only got 2 points. Now, was I expecting a clean sheet from Crystal Palace? Not really. They didn't look good defensively, but Brentford didn't look good either. They didn't have Ivan Toney, so they could have kept a clean sheet. And I'm just very fortunate that Henderson got a few saves. Otherwise, it would have only been 1 point. So I got a little bit fortunate there, but as I said, I wasn't really expecting a clean sheet from Henderson in that game. Moving on to my defence, this is where I'm very happy. So starting with Gabriel, a 6-pointer. I wasn't really expecting much else. I got the clean sheet from him, which I'm happy with. And was I expecting him to get on the score sheet against Wolves? Maybe from a corner, but I'm not really disappointed that he didn't. I was happy that he kept the clean sheet. And that's the reason that I brought in an Arsenal defender from the first game week. Because a lot of people aren't going for Arsenal defenders yet because of the fixtures that they have. So, as mentioned previously, if I can get an Arsenal defender in before people start to bring them in and start wildcarding, then I'll be happy. So I got a clean sheet there that automatically put me ahead of some other managers who didn't have him. I'm going to look at Trent next because he's been in my team the whole time. He got a clean sheet, and he got 2 bonus points, but he could have got so much more. He was getting forward an awful lot from that right back position. And in the first half, Liverpool didn't look great. But in that second half, Trent was getting forward so much and was so close to getting assists. It was shocking that he didn't. I think his expected assist was 1.0. He's the only player from that first game week to have a 1.0 expected assist and didn't get an assist. So it was so disappointing for him to not get one. But at the same time, he got the clean sheet, so I'm happy with that. If nobody watched the Liverpool game, there was a chance in the second half where Trent put the ball into the box and Jota got his head to it, and it narrowly missed. It literally skimmed the outside of the post, and that's how close it was. So he was so close to getting an assist, and it would have been perfect if he did. But I'll take the 8-pointer for the first game week, and it can only go up from here, in my opinion. I think he'll get so many assists in this new system that Slot is implementing to Liverpool, so I'm happy with that. And then moving on to Pedro Porro. Now, I made a last-minute decision in my team, and it was literally maybe 3 minutes before the deadline. Probably a little bit more than that, but I thought, can I get in a Spurs defender for the first 2 game weeks? And I looked at my team and thought I could probably get rid of Gvardiol out of everybody, free up a little bit of funds, and that's what I did. I got rid of Gvardiol and brought in Pedro Porro, and boy, am I happy I did that. He got the goal. Didn't get the clean sheet, unfortunately, but got that goal for Spurs, and he could have done more. He could have got the clean sheet. Spurs fell asleep at the back and conceded. Was it a good goal by Vardy? Absolutely. But Romero was just caught ball watching. If he was watching his man, he probably would have been able to mark him and stop that goal. So it was disappointing for Spurs, first of all, not to get the clean sheet, but also for Spurs not to win. Spurs were the dominant team in that game, and even Spurs will be kicking themselves that they didn't win that game. But 9 points from Porro. He got the goal. He got 1 bonus point. So that's already more points than Gvardiol would have got. So I'm happy that I brought Porro in the end. So that's my defence, and I'm really happy with my defence points there. So it couldn't have really got much better, bar Henderson. Moving on to midfield, and I'm going to start off with Nkunku because this is the disappointing one. He came off in the 58th minute, so I literally only got 1 point. And I don't really think he's going to start many more games. They've brought in Joe Felix and they're looking at bringing in Victor Osimhen. So now Chelsea play midweek. They play on Thursday this week in the Europa Conference League. If Nkunku starts in that game, chances are he doesn't start at the weekend. So I might be looking at bringing Nkunku out at that point. But I think for now I have players on the bench that I can bring in. It's just Nkunku will probably drop in price when he stops playing. So I might need to bring him out earlier than I wanted to. But that's one that I am looking at. But very, very disappointed in Nkunku. Moving on to Jota, I got 8 points because he got a goal, but he could have got so much more. As I said, he literally skimmed the outside of the post. That could have been another goal. He also had the chance to get a couple of assists, and Liverpool just didn't finish it off. So I was very happy with how Jota played. Now, in the new system under Slot, I feel like Jota will start a lot more games than Nunes, and that's only because I feel like Jota links up the midfield to the attack so much better than Nunes does. He plays more of like a default number 9, but could also play as a false 9. So he can do both. And I feel like at some points he was playing as a false 9, but then when we were on the attack, he got into that number 9 position and was getting into positions in the box. And his goal was really well taken. And I think for the next few game weeks, he's locked on to start after that. So I'm very happy with having him in my team, and I'm happy that he got that return for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future game weeks. Moving on to Saka next, again a really nice return. He got a goal and he got an assist. Can't really ask for much more. In the Arsenal team, Saka looks like he's going to be that main creator for them. The assist that he got for the Havertz goal was beautifully taken. He managed to glide the ball into the box and Havertz got his head to it. So it was a really well taken goal and a really nice assist. And then Saka's goal was really nice as well. He managed to get a little bit of space in the box and managed to just put it into the close corner. So again, Saka is one of those players that I'm glad that I've got. And I think he'll return in future game weeks, especially with him being on penalties as well. I'm very happy to have him. Then looking at Mo Salah, who's my captain. 28 points all out for Salah. I'm very happy with it. It's 14 without him being captain, so I went for the right captaincy pick because he got the most points in my team. And Salah played so well in that game. Yes, they were against Ipswich, but in the first half, Liverpool were nowhere. They lost so many aerial duels. They were losing possession very easily. And at half time, and after the game, the manager came out and said, yeah, we took Quansah off because he wasn't winning enough duels. So that says a lot in my opinion, and I think Konate is going to end up being that starting centre back next to Van Dijk now. So I'm glad that I doubled up on the Liverpool attack and not the Liverpool defence. But in that second half, Salah looked sensational. He was managing to lose his man a lot more when he was on the wing and getting behind. And for the first goal Liverpool scored, which was what Jota scored, Salah played such a big part in it. Gravenberg had the ball, passed it to Salah, and first time Salah was laid off to Trent and started running. Trent put the ball over the top, and Salah just lost his man and got the ball, played it into Jota, and Jota scored. And it was such a well worded goal from the entire team. And Salah getting that assist made me really happy. And then Salah's goal was well taken. And as I mentioned in my final team video, Salah is that player who never disappoints in FPL. He now has 9 goals in 8 opening fixtures. He's got the highest goal total for opening fixtures out of anybody. He's now surpassed Alan Shearer and the other players that were there. So Salah's always breaking records, and he's just broken another one. So I'm so happy that I have him in my team, and I think for the rest of the season he will continue to return in that Liverpool team. Then moving on to the attack, that's where it gets disappointing. 2 points from Manice. I didn't really expect much else from him. They were against Manchester United and they didn't look great. It's game weeks 2 and 3 that I brought Muniz in for, and that's the Leicester game in game week 2 and the Ipswich game in game week 3. Now, with how Leicester played, hopefully Muniz can get a goal or two next week. But time will tell with that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I'm disappointed that he didn't get on the score sheet in the United game. yes, but I wasn't expecting him to get there anyway. Moving on to Solanke, this is where I'm even more disappointed because the chances that Solanke had and he didn't score, I just can't believe it, if I'm being honest. He was getting into such really good positions on the pitch to get a goal. I think he had one cleared off the line, and there was another one where he went for a diving header, and if he'd have gone for it with his foot, he might have scored. And even in the second half, he was getting into really good positions, just not managing to find the back of the net. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Solanke can do in future game weeks. And I'm going to give him a little bit more time before I look at making a transfer. Now, Solanke played the entirety of the game. There was 9 minutes added on, and he played the whole 99 minutes of the game. So he didn't get subbed early. It was Son that went off when they were making changes. So that's good in my opinion because that means that Solanke is nailed on for minutes and he's nailed on to be that number one striker. So I'm happy with his minutes. I just need to see a little bit more from him up front getting goals. And they have Everton next, so that should hopefully be a decent game for them and they should hopefully be able to score. But no doubt Spurs will be very disappointed with that game because they should have won against Leicester. Leicester were awful. And then Isak. Now, in my last video, I said I don't want Isak to return because a lot of people were captaining him because they have Haaland. So him only getting an assist, I can't really say I'm disappointed. I'm actually really happy with that. So all in all, like Newcastle didn't look great. They actually made Southampton look good. Now, yes, Southampton played really well. They were expected to keep them highest, like the less goals conceded. So the fact that they only conceded one goal. Now, yes, Newcastle had a player sent off. Did that change the game? Yeah, but Newcastle played better after they had the player sent off. Before Schur got sent off, they Newcastle were nowhere, and it was actually after he got sent off that they scored the goal. So Newcastle aren't looking great, and I might be looking at bringing Isak out early for. Well, I'll talk about a bit later on who I'm looking at bringing him out for. But is he like going to be as good as last season? Maybe not. Looking at the first game week, but he's still in for my game week 2 team at the minute, and we'll get onto that in a second. But I can't really say I'm disappointed because I wanted him to blank anyway. So he only got an assist. So overall, I'm happy. I'm happy with my team. I would have liked a little bit more from my other two attackers and from Nkunku, but 83 points for game week 1, I'm happy with. If I look at my bench, Smith Rowe and Robinson with 3 and 2 points, Johnson with none. Not really surprised there. If I'd have started Smith Rowe instead of Nkunku, it would have been 85 points, but hindsight is a wonderful thing. But yeah, as I said, 83 points, I'm really happy with. So yeah, I'll get on to what my game week 2 team is now looking like and look at some of the changes that I might make ahead of it. So now looking at how my game week 2 team is currently lining up and a couple of changes that I am looking at making but might not make. So starting off with net, I've got Dean Henderson still because I'm probably not going to change my goalkeeper at all this season unless Palace bring in another keeper who is guaranteed to be number one. So I'm happy with having Henderson against West Ham. Now West Ham didn't look good going forward, and at home last season, that's when Palace looked the best. So I could potentially see a clean sheet in that game, but I'm not holding my breath for it. I'm just hoping that they don't concede more than one goal because I don't really want to be losing out on points. So hopefully they can either keep a clean sheet or just get a 2-pointer from Henderson. Nothing less, please. But yeah, I'm happy with having Henderson. Moving down to the defence, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. So Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be starting for me no matter what. They've got Brentford at home, which I can see a clean sheet, and I can see Trent getting either on the score sheet with a goal, if not an assist. As I said, the positions that Trent was taking up against Ipswich were really good, and that was away from home. So at home, I can see him doing it a lot more frequently. So hopefully he gets an assist in that game. The other two are where I'm a bit torn because originally I was going to start Robinson over Gabriel, but looking at Arsenal's defence in that Villa game, I thought, do you know what? Arsenal are actually looking as as good as last season, if not better. So I might end up keeping Gabriel, but then I'll look at Porro, and if he's going to be out for a while, then I will look at starting Robinson over Porro. Hopefully on Friday we get news that Porro is fit to start, and in that case he will stay in my starting 11 and will be starting because against Everton, as I said, Everton didn't look good at all, especially going forward as well. So yes, they had I think they had a goal ruled out or a penalty ruled out, but I can see Spurs hopefully keeping a clean sheet in that game. So I'd like to start Porro, but if it is looking like even if he's only out for one game week, I'd just start Robinson. If he's out for a little bit longer, I might look at transferring him out. I'm just not sure who for. I'd probably look at bringing in a 4.5 million midfielder because then I could upgrade Solanke later on to Watkins, but none of them are really catching my eye at the minute out of the 4.5s. Out of the 4.5. So it might be a Villa defender like a Konza that I bring in because Villa's fixtures after game week 2 get decent, where I could see clean sheets coming. So that's one that I'm keeping an eye on. But as it stands, I'm going to keep Porro in there. Moving on to the midfield, Jota and Salah from Liverpool. I'm going to start with because they're both staying at home to Brentford, and even after that, the fixtures are really nice. And as I said, Jota looks like he'll be that starting number 9. Salah's going to start a lot of games. Can't really go wrong, so they're both staying. I'll probably captain Salah again because at home to Brentford, I can see him doing quite a bit. So I'm happy with that. Saka against Aston Villa. Again, I don't really want to take Saka out because they have Brighton in game week 3. And I don't really want to bench Saka because it is a game where he could get on the score sheet. Again, Villa defensively didn't look great. So could Saka get on the score sheet in that game? 100% yes, even if it's from a penalty. But chances are in my opinion, it'll be a 0-0 draw. But even then, I'm happy with that. So I'm keeping Saka in my team for that reason, just in case he gets on the score sheet. Now, Nkunku is the one that I'm looking at bringing out. Now, I think no matter what, I'm going to start Smith Rowe, who's on my bench currently, instead of Nkunku. And that's the quick change that I was making my team. But then I look at Nkunku and think, can I transfer him out? But there's no real players that I really want to bring him out for. There's Mbeumo from Brentford, but the fixtures aren't great. Matoma or Minter from Brighton, again, fixtures aren't great. I could upgrade him to Eze from Palace, but transfer rooms are still there, and then I have nothing remaining in my budget. So chances are I hold on to Nkunku for a little bit longer and just hope that he plays. If not, he can just sit on my bench for a bit. I have Smith Rowe there, as I've said, and Smith Rowe in that game against United, Smith Rowe's positioning was really good. He was getting into some really good positions, and he got brought off in about the 65th minute, but that's because of match fitness. He hardly played for Arsenal, and he's not really had much pre-season. And the manager mentioned before the match that they will need to manage his minutes a little bit before he can start playing a full 90. But I can see him starting that game against Leicester, and he'll, chances are I can see him getting on the score sheet. Leicester didn't look good, and as I said, Spurs should have won that game against them. So I can see Smith Rowe getting at least an assist in that game. So he'll be starting. He'll be starting that game for Fulham, and for me, I think he'll be starting in my team. Moving down to the attack, the fixtures are really good for my attackers. It's just can they return? So starting off with Muniz, again, I didn't bring him in for that United game. I brought him in for game weeks 2 and 3, and this is where I hope he shines. If I can get a goal or two from Muniz in this game week, that'll make me really happy, especially because I don't own Haaland. So I'd like to see a return from Muniz. I'm not going to be captaining Muniz, sorry, but I'd like a return. Just please get a return. Same with game week 3. I'd like a return there against Ipswich. Then moving on to Solanke. This is going to be the make or break for me, I think. If Solanke doesn't return against Everton, then I will be looking in game week 3 of bringing him out because they have Newcastle in game week 3, and then they've got Arsenal coming up. No, they have Arsenal coming up as well, I'm pretty sure. So Solanke against Everton now. Everton defensively was shocking. They conceded 4 goals, but only 3 counted because the other one was offside, unfortunately. So it was 3-0 in the end. But yeah, defensively they didn't look great. They got a straight red card to Ashley Young. So I can see Everton coming out into that game at home, especially wanting to prove a point because that draw in the first game, especially against Leicester, that'll feel like a loss to Spurs, and they they will want to be coming out into that second game week getting all 3 points. And with Solanke playing majority of minutes in that first game, I can see it being the same in the second game. And hopefully, with it being against Everton, who have a rocky defence, he gets 1 or 2 goals. So it's more hopeful thinking from me that he'll get goals. And again, if he doesn't, that's when I look at bringing him out. But for now, I want to stick with my gut and think, you know what, Solanke can get a return in that game. He's going to get a return. Don't bring him out yet. So I'm going to be keeping him in for that reason. And then looking at Isak against Bournemouth now, as I've said, in that first game, Newcastle looked awful, and Isak didn't look great either. He got the assist, but that was it. And with a couple of the fixtures coming up not looking great, especially Spurs in game week 3, I look at this game week coming up and think, I'm going to keep Isak in for it because it is against Bournemouth. But if Isak doesn't return this game week, do I then look at bringing Isak out for Watkins because Watkins' fixtures get really good? Because then that means I only have to make one transfer. I don't have to free up funds anywhere, and then I can bring out Nkunku for somebody else instead of having to downgrade Porro or Maniz to upgrade Solanke. I could just do a straight swap pretty much of Isak to Watkins. Yes, it does my entire budget, but then I can do Nkunku out for another 6.5. So that is something that I'm thinking of doing. I just want to see if Isak can get a return in this second game week. If he doesn't, then chances are for game week 3, I look at bringing him out. But for now, I'm going to keep him there. So that means that chances are I'm going to end up rolling my transfer. And I am going to be putting a video out on Friday, I think, of my deadline of my deadline team. So in that video, you'll be able to see what my team is shaping up like for game week 2 and if I have made any transfers. But for now, I'm not going to. Now, the big downside for game week 2 is Man City play Ipswich, which will probably be a goal fest. So the lack of Man City players, I feel like is going to come back to bite me. And I will be watching that game behind about 7 sofas because I feel like Haaland will probably net 5 against Ipswich, unfortunately. But if I can get away with Haaland only getting 2 goals, I think I'll be happy with that. I just need to hope that he doesn't score more than 2. If he does, that's when things start to look really bad. But I went for this team for a reason and I'm happy with it. I'm not pulling an early wild card in game week 1 to bring Haaland in for that. I'm not playing my free hit to bring in Haaland. I'm confident that my team that I have can still get me those returns. Even though Haaland is probably going to get a high scorer in that game, the rest of my team I feel can also get equally high, hopefully. And I add hopefully there because it's a big if, but I'm probably not going to look at making any transfers to bring in any City players, which will probably come back to haunt me, but I'm confident enough to do it. Now, looking at captaincy, I'm going to look at captaincy really quick because I'm not really decided on who I want my captain to be. Now, at the minute, it's Salah against Brentford, but it could be a number of players. I could captain Solanke against Everton if I think he's going to return. I could captain Isak against Bournemouth if I feel confident enough in him. I could also captain Maniz against Leicester if I'm confident enough in him. So there's 3 or 4 captaincy options there that I would be confident going for. And chances are I do go with Salah, but only just. Now, that could change last minute and I could change to somebody else. So I'm going to be looking a little bit more during the week at who I do want to captain. But I just look at my team and think, if I have Salah there, what's the point if I'm not going to captain him? I might as well play my free hit and bring in Haaland. So I think I will captain Salah, especially against Brentford at home. So that's how the team's lining up. Again, no City players is a risk, but it's one that I am willing to take for game week 2. So there we have it, guys. That was my Game Week 1 breakdown of the points that I got and a quick look at my Game Week 2 team and how it is currently lining up. So I want your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of how my team is currently lining up for Game Week 2? What changes would you make? And do you think I'm taking a huge risk not having any City assets in there? As always, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. And until next time, thank you for watching.